Good morning, everybody. So it's Monday afternoon. There's another article out. It came out actually yesterday. I was a little bit busy working on the podcast portion of the show that I'm setting up. I'm going to be doing that. You can find it, by the way, on Spotify, Apple, pretty much anywhere you find podcasts. If you put in Dr. Vincent Sativa into the search, more than likely you'll find me. Um, we're on Amazon Music, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, you name it, iHeartRadio, Pandora, wherever you like to listen to a podcast. Samsung. Anyway, so the title of today's article in Fox News is Trump suggests Manhattan DA Bragg already dropped the case against him. It's a fake case. Trump says they have absolutely nothing. Now, I agree with Trump. They have absolutely nothing. But is this the end of it? Or is there more? Before we get into it, first, a word from today's sponsor. And I know some of you who are listening on podcast, yes, it says video. I've got some more administrative stuff to do. I know it's not a video for you guys, it's audio nonetheless. Today's video sponsor is CBD gummies. Do you have chronic pain, anxiety, stress, or trouble sleeping? There's a natural remedy for that. Get relief up to 5 times faster with CBD gummies. These gummies use a nanotechnology to get you relief within 15 minutes, as opposed to traditional CBD edibles that can take up to 30 minutes to 2 hours to kick in. This nanotechnology allows CBD to be absorbed by your stomach, entering your bloodstream and bypassing the process of metabolization. Get your CBD gummies today at kofefi.click/gummies. kofefi.click/gummies. Okay. According to the article, Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump suggested Saturday that Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, dropped the case against him for alleged campaign finance violations. He says, quote, I think they've already dropped the case, Trump told reporters aboard his plane after appearing at a campaign rally in Waco, Texas. It's a fake case. Some fake cases, they have absolutely nothing. When asked to comment about Trump's claim the case has been dropped, Trump campaign spokesperson Stephen Chung told Fox News Digital, quote, this has been dropped because everybody knows this was a partisan witch hunt by a radical leftist DA that sought to politically weaponize the justice system to influence an election. Okay. So, question number one, for me anyway, is has this case actually been dropped? Is there something that Trump knows that we don't? Or is that just an assumption? Is he saying because there's no case, it should be dropped? The case should be dropped because there is no case. I agree with him there. But you have to question what is really the goal here? Was the goal really ever to, um, you know, prosecute, indict, or was it really just to embarrass and get ahead of something else? Or did DA Fatso Bragg, was he trying to make a name for himself, right? And or I should say, is this just really a stall tactic for other cases that they're working on that they haven't been able to fabricate a crime yet? So we're just kind of priming the media, you know what I mean? Um, I don't know. I don't know. What we do know is due to statute of limitations issues, this Manhattan case is garbage. They're all garbage, right? We know that. We know that. But keep in mind, and yes, I'm fully aware Letitia James has nothing to do with DA Bragg and this nonsensical case. However, it is an important data point to remember that she did run on getting Trump. So this is a Democrat strategy. It always has been. And we've seen it, right? You know, we had what, the Russia hoax, then we had the Bob Mueller hoax, then we had the impeachment one hoax, then we had the impeachment two hoax, then we had the J6 hoax, then we had the J6 committee hoax, on and on and on. So it's, you know, you could say it's tinfoil hat time, but is it really? Is it really? This is what they've done. And now there are, you have, what's his name? Jack Smith. I call him Jackass. That's really more like it. Uh, I think that's involving the classified documents that weren't classified because they were declassified and he was allowed to have, but then we treat Biden different, you know, that whole scenario. Uh, so the question is, we know they were planning on indicting Trump, not for a crime, just for a political reason. Uh, so did this DA, the Soros-backed DA, did he come out because that's what they planned? Or did he go rogue and just come out trying to make a name for himself? Or is this a distraction to take away from the clear and obvious banking issue that we have? We have a major banking issue that nobody wants to talk about. Uh, Look at what's going on with the BRICS system. If you don't know what the BRICS system is, it's a competitor to SWIFT. Now, I think that we need to scrap the Federal Reserve and the central bank and go back to a gold-backed currency. In fact, I do believe that at some point when we fix the situation that we're in, that the only way you fix it is by doing that, which, by the way, is why um, I'm so happy to have Augusta Precious Metals as one of my show sponsors, right? And by the way, I might as well tell you, with all the things that we're seeing now, it might be a good time to get the free gold IRA guide at kofefi.click/IRA. Because there is a major banking issue, and outside of a few alternative media guys, nobody's really covering it in great depth. You know what I mean? They're skimming the surface and telling you the little things that they want to tell you about it, but nobody's really taking a deep dive into it. You got to ask yourself, you know, did this DA try to make himself look good? Oh, I'll get Trump. I'm going to be the guy to get him, right? Or are they just running cover for this banking thing? Oh, no, 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 don't look over here, right? Now, it's not unlike them to sacrifice one of their own and or come out saying something stupid, getting caught with your pants down, looking like a horse's ass, and then pretending it didn't happen and calling you a conspiracy theory for saying it was a political, kabuki theater, right? They're notorious for doing that because, let's face it, quite frankly, they don't care and don't think that it won't stop them from coming out with some future case, right? So like that's even another thing, right? If you look at these other cases that they have, you know, if you're looking at it through an evidentiary lens, these cases have nothing in common. They're not connected in any way, shape, or form. However, when you look at it through a political lens, you can see the strategy and you could see what they're trying to do. And there's also rumor now that they're contemplating trying to drum up now conspiracy charges probably because this case in New York is so blown. But you got to ask yourself, and this is the thing that I'm kind of stuck on, did they really ever intend on this New York case to go anywhere? Was this just to like warm people up to what they were going to do next? Was it just a temperature check to see, if this would be politically beneficial or negative, uh, uh, for them to run on in 2024? Was this really just, is this more of election interference for 2024? Or is this about hiding the bank situation? Um, you know, who knows? I do know that we have some major banking issues. There's some issues popping up with Deutsche Bank. There are some alleging that give it a week or so and they're going to be the next Credit Suisse, Swiss or however the hell you say it, and Silicon Valley Bank and Signature and uh, the First Republic, I think it was. Um, and then, as I said, we have that BRIC system headed by China and Russia, but you have now Mexico participated in it. You got Saudi Arabia. You got a whole bunch of places in Africa. And by the way, I don't know if a lot of you guys saw. I had posted it on my Twitter account. If you're not following me on Twitter, I would go follow me over there. Keep up on breaking news and stuff. Just go into search and Dr. Vincent Sativa. Uh, you'll find me. But I posted a video there with the Kenyan president who came out and said, if you're holding dollars, you might want to get rid of them because you're going to take some huge losses. And that in the next week or so, things are going to be completely different. What does that mean? Um, have they joined into the BRICS system? What happens if a majority of the countries sign on to BRICS? What really gives the dollar any value whatsoever? It's a fiat currency, right? So what gives it its value? Well, what gives it its value is the fact that Saudi Arabia only sells oil and in exchange for dollars, right? The petrodollar. Well, Saudi Arabia lately has been quite cozy with China, Russia, Brazil, India. I mean, so, and there was rumor a while ago that they were no longer going to sell their oil in the dollar. So there goes our economy, huh? And you got to wonder, is that the direction? Well, we know that that's the direction that the World Economic Forum and the Klaus Schwabs of the world, they want to bring in this central bank digital currency, right? This way they could implement something like the Chinese social credit score, ultimate way to control everything that we do, right? Uh, what happens? And what about America's status as the world's largest superpower? I'd say right now it's China, especially with this alliance that they're creating. Um, now, I'm not for war. I don't think that we should be the policemen of the world per se. Uh, as far as getting involved in military conflicts, I think that we should be the ones going around uh, promoting peace, not war. But do you really want China, out of all countries, communist China, to be the country that the world looks up to? Uh, Keep in mind, if the United States falls, so does the rest of the world. I know right now, as I sit here doing this podcast slash video, you could argue that United States is far more corrupt than Russia or China. But that's a temporary thing, hopefully. But what happens if all these other countries go back to a gold backed currency and we don't? You know, I think we're headed towards a crossroads at this point. And at some point, and pretty soon, I would argue, we're going to be at a point where are we going to get rid of the central bank, Federal Reserve system and go back to something similar to the gold standard or a system backed by precious metal and um, gold? Or are we going to allow them to bring in the central bank digital currency, which I tell you right now, not good. And what about the rest of Trump? Has has the Democrats figured out that that's political suicide for them? Is that the stall tactic? Have they realized that they've backed themselves into a corner? They know they don't have a crime. They know that, yeah, they'll be able to indict. You can indict a ham sandwich, but more than likely they'll never be able to convict. Are they running political calculations as to whether or not it's worth it? Are they just getting their ducks in a row to pull off the ultimate scam on the American people with bogus charges and a phony indictment? I don't know. I don't see them just going away. And it's never been about facts. And quite frankly, they can't afford to lose 2024. Um, so if I had to take a guess, I would say that there's probably an indictment coming. Will it be from Fatso Braggs, the Manhattan DA? Maybe. I'm not 100% sold on that. I think we may have blown that so much that they realize that now they're going to have to go to something else. Uh, but then, if you think about it, right, the problem for them there is if you back away from this and then you come up with the next thing. I mean, I think they've already gotten themselves into a situation where people are going to feel that it's political. Most people already feel that way. I would argue that most Americans by now realize that this is nothing more than a political witch hunt. But I think you have a couple different ways of looking at that. I think you have a group of people who think, well, politics is dirty. And then you have a group of people outraged, right? Mainly Trump supporters. And then you have a group of people who realize it's a miscarriage of justice, realize it's using the well, not the DOJ, but using the system of justice as a political weapon, and they do intend on using the DOJ too, just not for this particular case. However, those people who know don't care because it gets rid of the guy that they don't like. And quite frankly, if you think about it, if Hitler was still alive and was running for president, is there anything that you wouldn't do to stop that guy? Probably not. And that's kind of the thing. See, the media has run this narrative that Donald Trump is literally Hitler. Despite the fact, by the way, George Soros actually worked for Hitler and is the one that's funding everything on the left. But don't worry about facts. Not important. Uh, so here we are. Now, I don't know which way that this is going to go, but I can tell you there's actually a couple other things going on that I almost forgot to mention. We'll mention them real quick here. Um, I've reported in the past that they needed to get rid of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and you're now hearing rumblings about Joe Biden being dissatisfied with Kamala Harris because he feels she just didn't. I don't know. I don't know what he expected. She was a cackling numbskull uh, her entire career. I mean, she got, what was it, 1%, I think was the highest, maybe 3% max when she ran for president. She was the first to drop out. Why did you think, you know, once again, you hired her because she was a black woman, not because she was capable, and now you're dissatisfied. Go figure. But I think that the party as a whole don't want Joe Biden. And I've said this many times before, I think that there's a move to bring in Michelle Obama in some way, shape, or form. And I think that there's Hillary Clinton in the background that wants to do something. There was talk for a while that those two were negotiating, putting together a ticket. What that looks like, who is in what position, who knows. But I think they also need to try to get rid of Trump. And then, what's interesting is there's also rumblings. Not only are we hearing that Joe Biden's dissatisfied with Kamala Harris, but you also have now the Ron DeSantis, his donors are pretty much telling him to sit 2024 out because he's not quite ready yet. He's never going to be ready. He exposed his ass. That's it. He showed us who he is. As a group, we need to start listening to them when they tell us what they are, instead of making excuses as to what it is they said or did and what it may or may not mean. When we see the red flags, I think we got to start acting on it, instead of trying to make the excuse for it. I know, myself included, I wanted him to be good. Who wouldn't, right? Another powerful figure on the Republican side. The way I viewed it was that puts us in a good position for 2028, but I'm not going to ignore fact. And I'm not going to put another rhino in office. And now, there was a video that came out yesterday. I forget where I saw it. I saw it on Telegram and some other places with Ron DeSantis saying that he was inspired by George Bush. I mean, it's like me saying I've been inspired by dog crap, pretty much, right? That's what Bush is to the populist MAGA movement. He's dog crap. He's everywhere. They're, it's like that saying, it's like dog shit, right? You step in it and that everywhere. That's it. You ever do that, by the way? That's never a good thing. Never a good thing. I've done that a couple times at an old complex I lived in, step in dog shit and then get in your car, and that's fucking wonderful. You're riding home with the smell of poop the whole way. That's like the Bush dynasty, because it's not just the Bushes, right? It's the Paul Ryans. You got Jeb, remember him? McCain, luckily enough. Not that I celebrate his death, but he's no longer with us, and I'm not sad about it. Jeff Flake, right? You remember all these cowards? Adam Kinzinger, how's it working out for him and his stolen valor? I don't know if you guys saw that story. And he just so happened to sit on a board with a group of corrupt people that are now being investigated? Is that why crying Adam Kinzinger has been so loud? Right? You got to look at that. Those who are the loudest usually have the most to hide. And look at all the crying, whining, and crazy stuff we've seen, even in light of the potential Trump indictment. Look at all the defectors on the Republican side. And I'll say one last thing uh, before I cut this off here. But I was watching Steve Bannon's show earlier, and Mike Lindell was on, which, by the way, thank God for him. Isn't he a godsend? You know, he hasn't stopped fighting for election integrity since 2020. Got in the fight even harder after 2022. And he says that he's actively working on getting states to get rid of the machines and to paper ballots. And you know the spiel. We don't need to go through it again. But he said the people giving him the biggest problem are members of the GOP. Let that sink in. Secretary of State's, Republican Secretary of State's. Look at that. He also said Ron DeSantis is a snake, by the way. And if I'm going to side with anybody, it's almost always going to be Mike Lindell. There are very few people in our movement that I can say I trust 100%. Donald Trump, despite the fact I think sometimes he listens to the wrong people, but I trust him 100%. His instincts are exactly what they've got to be. I think every once in a while, in my opinion, we'd have a personnel issue. We'll get that resolved. I'm not too concerned about it. When it comes to trust, he is the guy I trust. Mike Lindell is certainly a second. I have never questioned whose side he's on. I think it was back in, I don't know, 2006, 2007. I mean, it's like when Facebook ads first came out, even a little bit before that. I was promoting My Pillow through affiliate marketing companies. And at that time, nobody knew who the hell Mike Lindell was. And I got to tell you, the guy's personality, character, and everything about him was exactly the same then as it is now. The dude's a fighter. He knows what he's talking about. And he loves his country. And according to Mike Lindell, Ron DeSantis has done a lot of things in Florida to help Dominion voting systems and to make it easier for them to sue people and companies like My Pillow. Now, I don't know what the deal is with Ron DeSantis. I certainly know what it looks like, and it's not good. Laura Loomer, God bless her, blowing this crap up like nobody's business. There's more than enough information out there, in my opinion, to come to a conclusion. I know what I think, but it's up to you to look at all the information and come up to your own conclusion. What I think is irrelevant to what you should be thinking. But I think that there is more than enough. And for me, when it comes to a guy like Ron DeSantis, it's more the stuff that he hasn't said or hasn't done than the stuff that he has done. And he has done and said some stuff that should raise some red flags for people. I know I've said in the past, he reminds me a lot of Mike Pence 2.0. And look at even like a guy like Mike Pompeo, or even a recent Kayleigh McEnany. The hell happened to her? Go on Fox News, and now all of a sudden you become a snake. She's one of the very few. Mike Pompeo was one of the other ones, two turncoats that completely fooled me. It doesn't happen often, but it did with those two. And why would Kayleigh McEnany praise Mike Pence? If it wasn't for Mike Pence, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in now. All he had to do was do his job and let the states do theirs. And he screwed us. And now he wants to run for president. And you're going to praise the guy? Some of these people, I would argue most of these people, love money more than they love our country. And if you think about it, Donald Trump is the polar opposite. How much did he give up to try to save our country? How many people have done that? Mike Lindell's the same, by the way. That's why those are the two guys that I trust 100%. There's other guys, General Flynn, and then there's some media people. Raheem Kassam's one of them, certainly. Jack Posobiec. There's some good ones. Tom Fitton's a guy that I think is a badass in the movement, seeking truth. Rudy Giuliani, he's always been a solid. I can't sit here and list everybody. Don Jr., there are a lot of good people, but there are also a lot of bad. And we've got to start doing a better job figuring out who is who. It's pretty much all I have to say here. If you would do me a favor, like and share the video podcast, wherever the hell you're watching this. Check out the sponsors below. You might have to click more or whatever. CBD gummies. It's American grown hemp. It's now legal in all 50 states. And you could get it today at covfefe.click/gummies. For my radio listeners, it's Covfefe, COVFEFE.click/gummies. Stay away from the big pharma garbage. We saw with the vaccines and their COVID-19 and the handling of it that they don't really know what the hell they're talking about. So whenever you can, use something natural for whatever issue you have. That's always the best place to start. And obviously, there is a time and a place for pharmaceuticals. Sometimes you do need them, right? I'm not one of those where don't ever, but always the best place to start is always with something natural and organic. But that's all I have to say here. Until next time. Bye.